How do you know what type of Amazon business is the right Amazon business for you? So I wanted to make this video to discuss all the different ways that there are for someone to make money on Amazon, and how, if you're a new seller or someone who's just starting out, or if you want to start out selling on Amazon, picking the right Amazon business model that's the right fit for you, that's going to be one of the most important decisions that anyone starting out in this business has to initially make. I'm going to be talking about 4 main business models on Amazon. There are 4 core businesses that anyone can start and build on Amazon, and those are retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, wholesale, and private label. And they're all completely different. They all have their pros and cons, and I've seen people absolutely kill it doing it all 4 different ways. At the same time, I've also seen people fail at all of them too. So I think it's super important to pick the path that is going to suit you the best. And to me, doing that is going to be based on a number of different things, right? So your own personal experience, the amount of capital you have, your connections, your talents or specific things you might be good at, your location, and also just what your personal preference is. So for me, my personal preference was a wholesale business model, but the wholesale model definitely isn't the right fit for everyone. I hope that by the end of this video, I will give you a good enough understanding of each of the 4 Amazon models, and you will be able to take that information and make the best business decision possible. So let's dive right into it. The first business I guess we should discuss is retail arbitrage, and this is essentially finding stuff in retail stores that you can flip on Amazon for a profit. And if you want to start, one of the best ways to go about doing this is you hit up some big name stores by you locally, you download the Amazon app, you go to the clearance section, and you start scanning products. What I mean by scanning products is you take the app and you scan the barcode. And when you're scanning a product's barcode, what you are basically doing is you're taking that item and you're looking it up on Amazon. And from there, you're basically checking for 2 things, right? You're checking to see if the item is popular, will it sell? And you're checking to see if it's profitable. So if the answer is yes, you buy it, you send it to Amazon, you hopefully make a couple of bucks. If the answer is no, you put it back on the shelf and you continue scanning and you're on to the next one. So this particular time of year, the 4th quarter, it's a particularly good time of year for retail arbitrage because there are a lot of items selling on Amazon for overinflated prices. There are toys you can buy, for instance, at a regular price in a store that's going for 2 or 3 times as much on Amazon. But in the regular retail arbitrage scenario, I'll give you an example. You might find an item in a store on clearance for 15 bucks. Maybe it sells on Amazon for 35, 40 bucks. After all the fees, you're left with maybe a $10 profit. So, it's not bad, definitely, for a $15 investment to make 10 bucks. But if you can scale it 10, 20, 50 sales a day, it can definitely start to become pretty lucrative. So that's basically the gist of retail arbitrage. I'll give you some of the pros and cons of retail arbitrage in my opinion. On the plus side, I think retail arbitrage can be a really inexpensive way for someone to start on Amazon and really learn the business. Another pro is you really don't need a lot of money for inventory. I've seen people start with a couple $100 and flip a few hundred into $1,000 into a few thousand, and really build up their retail arbitrage business and build up some nice capital. Another pro for retail arbitrage, it's a very entry level and very easy and simple business model for anyone to understand. And lastly, at scale, I've seen some really clever Amazon sellers really blow up their retail arbitrage businesses and make a ton of money. As for the downsides, the cons of a retail ARB business, I think it can be one of the most time-consuming business models, as you physically, have to go from store to store to find inventory. I don't think it's not really a passive source of income, but then again, if you want to make money on Amazon, I think you need to hustle. I don't believe in there being any other way, so it's definitely not a passive income business. And also, if you're driving around a lot, maybe things like gas and mileage can start to become a factor, but ultimately, it's not uncommon to make $500, $1,000 a day on a good day of retail arbitrage sourcing. So that can definitely alleviate some of those concerns. So let me tell you who I think retail arbitrage is for, and then you can decide if you're a good fit or not. I honestly feel if you're new to Amazon and know nothing about it, this is probably going to be your best bet. Your best bet to not only learn the business, but to potentially make some good money in the process as well. If you don't have a lot of money to start with, if you're broke, if you have a full-time job and you want to hustle on the weekends, this is going to be the business model for you. Believe me, there is no better feeling than starting from the bottom and making an extra G or 2 or 3 on the weekend. One thing to look out for if you're considering a retail arbitrage business, if you are maybe in an area geographically where you don't have access to a lot of retail, maybe you should take that into account. If you're interested in a retail arbitrage business, my advice to you, watch a lot of YouTube, do a lot of research. There are a lot of guys like Reezy Resells, for instance, who break it down step by step, network with people, and then start hitting up the stores, start hitting up Marshalls, Walmart, TJ Maxx, Goodwill, scan shit, a lot of shit, be patient, put in the work, and I think if done right, you could very easily make a lot of money using a retail arbitrage business model on Amazon. The next business model that I want to talk about is online arbitrage. So very similar to retail arbitrage, with the main difference being instead of sourcing products in stores, you're sourcing them from websites. So instead of taking a physical product and scanning it and seeing what it's doing on Amazon, you're taking products from other websites and you're looking those products up on Amazon. And then you're figuring out if there is money to be made in that little flip from the one website to Amazon. Now, unlike a retail store, there are literally so many different products and websites available to you online that it can start to get a little overwhelming with online arbitrage. There's also a ton of different tools and programs and methods to help you with that sourcing. So as such, there's a little bit more of a learning curve with online arbitrage, but it's still a killer business. And I guess I'll give you some of what I think the specific pros and cons are of an online arbitrage business. So for one, this could be a true work-at-home business model, so you won't have to physically drive around from store to store. Another pro of online arbitrage is you have way more sourcing opportunities online than you'll have if you're in a physical store. You also have a ton of different tools that can help you with the online sourcing process. You can also source online 24 hours a day and on off hours when the stores are closed, so that's another pro. You can also buy and find stuff in much larger quantities than you might be able to find in one specific store. And if you're business registered, you can also get a tax exemption and save money on sales tax that way. And I guess the last pro is once you get a little seasoned and you know what you're doing, there are a ton of flips, a ton of online flips where you can make big money per unit, couple of $100 per flip, especially in the electronics space. Some of the downsides for online arbitrage, as I mentioned, it could be a little overwhelming at first. There's so much stuff out there. You don't really want to get caught up in, it's easy to get caught up spending all your time in all the wrong places online. You also need to be a little more careful and make smarter investments if you're going to be buying products in a larger quantity as you typically would with OA. But overall, I think online arbitrage, it is a really good business for someone who maybe has just a little bit more experience with Amazon, someone who is also nice with computers, nice with multitasking, nice with using different softwares and stuff like Microsoft Excel, the ability to really navigate the net, message boards, Facebook groups, and just kind of have a talent to be able to find and sniff out where the best deals are online. So yeah, if you're interested in an online arbitrage business, my advice to you is, again, do your research. There are a ton of people killing it in OA. Reach out to them. One of my favorites for an online arbitrage business is WatchMeFBA from Instagram. Watch YouTube videos. And 2 tips that I can give you for OA specifically: look into the art of using cashback cards, credit cards, points, airline points, sites like Ebates. People who do that make a couple of $1,000s extra a month just in rebates. And the other thing you can do is look into a couple of tools that'll help you source online. Some of the tools that I like to use are Tactical Arbitrage and RevSeller, which is a Chrome extension. But yeah, online arbitrage, awesome business. So now let's talk about the wholesale business model. This one is my personal preference. I've been doing it for the last 5 years. I've made a lot of money as a wholesale seller, so I obviously love it. Same concept, right? I'm looking for popular branded items that I can buy and then sell on Amazon for a profit. The main difference is, instead of sourcing my products at retail or online, I'm buying them directly from the brand or from one of their distributors. And I'm also buying them in a much larger quantity. And while the margins on wholesale, while the margins are a little bit smaller than the other models, there's like a common misconception that they're extremely low. And that's just really not true. I typically, in my own personal business, I wouldn't even buy a wholesale product unless there was at least a 30% return on it. And whatever I'm missing in terms of the margin, I will more than make up for that little margin in terms of the sheer volume of sales that I'm gonna do as a wholesale seller. So that's my first wholesale pro. It's being able to find the good item, an item that works, an item that makes me money, and then having the ability to buy a lot of it, to go deep on it. Another pro of wholesale is that when one of my products gets close to selling out, I can reorder it. And as long as that item makes sense financially, as long as it's still profitable, I can keep reordering it. So if I want, I can take an item and I can keep that item in stock the entire year, making money on it literally 24/7, 365. Also in wholesale, when you get the ball rolling a little bit, you can start spinning your money. What is spinning your money? Spinning your money on wholesale is basically like, it's a snowball effect where you're constantly reinvesting your sales into more inventory and your inventory into more sales. And it's basically like a compounded interest type of thing on Amazon. That's how I was able to start out with $50,000 worth of inventory and turn that into over 8 figures in sales in just a couple of years. So that's one of the best pros. Another wholesale pro is, because I'm only dealing in very fast selling items, my business tends to be very liquid. So if I wanted to, if I wanted to sell out the vast majority of my inventory, I can do it inside of 2 to 3 months. And because I'm buying from the brands direct, I'm able to, maybe I'm able to list products that other people are restricted from. I may be able to get approval in categories that other people are restricted from. I may be able to get more exclusive products that more than likely you wouldn't be able to find in an OA or a RA business. And the last pro of wholesale, which is the best pro for me, is that it's extremely scalable, extremely fast. So in my opinion, wholesale is the quickest way to start from zero and get to a 7 or 8 figure business in sales. Obviously the wholesale is not without its drawbacks. There are definitely a bunch of negatives, a bunch of cons associated with starting a wholesale business on Amazon. The main one is you're going to need a lot more money to start a wholesale business. So with all the other different Amazon business models, you can start relatively low, but with wholesale, realistically, I would say you need at least 5 to 10 grand for vendors to even begin to take you seriously. And it's a thing where the more money you have, the more seriously the big vendors will take you. It can also be a little bit more difficult to land wholesale accounts. So some thought, some money, some effort definitely needs to be spent in order to properly build the foundations for a successful wholesale business. Also, more inventory always equals more risk. If something goes wrong, sometimes Amazon restricts a product, or sometimes something gets blocked and you're stuck, owning a large amount of inventory that you can't do much with. It's also slightly harder to find, items if all you're looking for is the very best ranked products, the most popular, profitable products. You'll also need a warehouse, or you'll probably need a warehouse or an office space once your business starts to grow. That's a pretty good problem to have. Another con is you'll need to hire people and manage a staff to process your inventory. Again, it's a good problem to have, but not everyone's good at running a business and managing a staff. And last but not least, a big part of a wholesale business, it's going to be based on your ability to negotiate and build relationship with vendors, right? You have to have that personality type that's going to be able to close deals and just get things done, for a lack of a better term. Long story short, I think wholesale on Amazon can be one of the best and most profitable businesses in the entire world for the right candidate. And to me, that is going to be someone who, in my opinion, is slightly more experienced, maybe not just on Amazon, but in business in general. Someone who is going to have a little bit more capital to invest, someone who is smart and has a head on their shoulders, someone who, like I said, has that getting it done attitude and personality, someone that might already have access to brands or distributors, someone who might have access to friends or family with retail stores, and then have the ability to leverage that. And, for wholesale, I just think, overall, it's someone who can just deal with adversity and, just basically figure things out. If that sounds like you, wholesale is definitely something that you should look into. And again, for more information on wholesale, definitely do your research as much as you can. And your best bet is probably going to be to subscribe to my YouTube channel, because over the next few months, I just plan on putting out a ton of wholesale specific Amazon content. And a tip, because I get people asking me about wholesale all the time, kind of a heads up, if you're in a country that doesn't have access to big wholesale distributors, like if you're in the middle of Africa, for instance, it's probably going to be, way more expensive to get popular branded items. So, maybe the wholesale business then isn't your best bet, but, then again, if there's items that are popular on Amazon that are made in Africa or coming in Africa, maybe you'll be able to get those items even cheaper than I do. So I think it really does all depend on your personal situation and, figuring out what advantages that you personally have. And lastly, that brings us to private label. So I wanted to talk about private label last because it's completely different than the other three models. Unlike, the other three business models that we discussed where you're basically flipping other people's brands or products, with private label, you're basically creating your own brand or product. And it's not so much, like you're inventing a new product, although you can do that too. But what you're basically doing is you're looking for popular products that have an acceptable amount of competition and that have areas where you can make little improvements upon them. And not only can you improve the actual physical product and make the physical product better, but you're looking for things where you can improve the listing. So you can make the images better, the titles better, you can make the keywords, the advertising, you can improve all the little things from the Amazon side, and then you'll start to take sales away from, from some of the other guys out there. I'll give you an example, right? This cuticle clipper, there might be 100 different listings for cuticle clippers on Amazon, and for the most part, they're pretty much all the same product, but the listings are different. And the way it works is typically the best listing with the best optimization and the best feedback and the better images and a better product, that's ultimately going to get more sales and more traffic than a shitty listing. There's obviously a lot more to it than that, but that's the basic gist of a private label business. So I'll give you some of the pros and cons of private label, at least to me, right? So to me, the most appealing part of a private label business is the potential to build and grow a large sellable brand. I'm over here flipping other people's big name brands, but actually being able to be one of those brands is very exciting. It should come with a disclaimer. It's obviously a lot easier said than done to build a big successful brand, but also because you're the brand owner, you have more control over the product on Amazon. You control the listing, the price, who can sell it, the marketing. So, that's definitely another pro. There are also very, very big margins on successful private label products. Like I said, for me, I can average 30-40% return on a product, but it's not uncommon for some private label products to make 10 times that amount. Another big pro is that you don't have to worry about Amazon or a brand restricting your listings. With some of the other models, one day you can sell something and the next morning you wake up and poof, just like that, you're not allowed to sell it anymore. So that's definitely a big pro. Another thing that you don't have to worry about with private label is a large amount of sellers hopping on your listing and killing the price. Another big plus is successful private label brands. They actually build equity. So if you do it right and you create a brand with stable sales, you can very well easily sell a private label brand for 6 and 7 figures. And lastly, I think private label is a business that virtually anyone, anywhere can take their shot at it. That being said, there are a lot of downsides with private label. Don't let anyone tell you that it's easy or a passive income type of business where you can make good money in just a few hours a day. I say it all the time, very few things in the world work like that. So the main issue to me with private label right now is how hard Amazon has made it to successfully launch a product. So in the past, you were able to do a lot of different things to generate product reviews, and to launch a product successfully, you need a lot of reviews and feedback to drive that product. And in the last year, Amazon completely eliminated incentivized reviews. So that made it super hard to launch a product, harder than ever. And you have to really be able to figure out how to generate and keep generating positive reviews while at the same time you kind of have to hope or pray that 2 negative reviews don't completely derail your launch or your product. Another negative with private label, you have to work with manufacturers. A lot of the time, foreign manufacturers, you need to be able to trust them, communicate with them, make sure your quality control is on point. Then you also have to import your products. So another con is, importing stuff from overseas, figuring out all the logistics that come along with that. You also have to, in private label, you have to worry about competition from really dirty, sneaky players who will try to hijack or hurt your listings. You spend all this time building up feedback and good feedback, and someone could come along and give you a couple of 1 or 2 star ratings, and that might be enough to completely kill your launch. You also have to know things and figure things out like Amazon advertising and pay-per-click, which the other business models typically don't use as much. Another con, it's also a little bit riskier because your items won't have any real sales history of their own. You're kind of going to have to rely on estimates about your competition. And last private label con, I think you need to be able to take a hit and survive 1 or 2 bad product launches. You can't really put all your eggs in one basket, and if in private label, if your first product fails, you'll be out of business. So you need to survive that. With OA or RA or wholesale, if a product gets killed and we need to liquidate it, I can. I can sell a product at a loss, I can sell a product on break even, I can sell a product on eBay, but I know at least I can sell it. With private label, if you fuck up, you might take a hit for the entire inventory. But overall, I really like private label too. I think it probably has the highest upside potential of all the business models, but at the same time, it's not really easy to get there, and it also has a very scary downside right now. But if you can handle that, if you can tolerate that little bit of risk, if you're the type of person who could figure out how to get feedback, if you think you can figure out marketing and making great listings, and figure out how to do really good product research, do good Amazon advertising, like I said, I think private label can be an amazing and lucrative investment of your time and money. Like everything else, if you're interested in learning more about private label, again, Google is your friend, YouTube is your friend. There are a ton of people making some really good private label videos there on YouTube. I would check out Matt Loberstein, Kevin David, Seller Tradecraft, Joshua Crisp. These are just a few of the private label sellers that I like to take in some of their content. But yeah, guys, that's basically it. Those are the 4 main pillars of Amazon selling. And, it's very difficult to say which one is ultimately the best and which one you should do. For me, the answer to that was wholesale. But, there are plenty of people who message me, and after talking to them, I tell them, wholesale's not for you. Go do private label, go do OA, go do RA. One thing that I can definitely tell you for sure is they're all honestly awesome. And I'm 100% confident that if I needed to, I would be able to make 7 figures with all of them. So at the end of the day, it's really all about looking in the mirror and figuring out what your pro and con is. Figuring out what's right for you based on your own personal situation, your circumstances, your skills, your talents, and being able to leverage all of that into the business model, that's going to give you the least amount of resistance. So that's it. I really hope this video was able to somewhat guide you to make a better choice, and I hope this video was at the very least able to give you a little bit of insight into all the different ways that someone can start a business on Amazon. Thank you guys all very much for watching. Feel free to hit me up in the comments or on my Instagram at WatchMeAmazon. And if you like this video, hook me up, follow this channel, and I promise there's going to be a lot more videos just like this one to come. Peace.